how NBA players ended up as NBA players. The NBA is filled with players that wow us on every night, whether it is a big-time three-pointer or an astonishing dunk. They do things very few other people in the world can do. They are like superheroes, and every superhero has a great origin story. What are NBA players' origin stories? So how did NBA players become NBA players? Keep watching to find out. LeBron James. It's impossible not to admire LeBron James for his accomplishments, but once you learn about the circumstances he grew up in, it's remarkable that he even made it to the NBA in the first place. When James first picked up a basketball, no one thought he'd become a living legend. However, it didn't take long for people to realize he had a special gift. James was born to a 16-year-old Gloria James. When he was born, they lived in a house with Gloria's mother and grandmother. But when the two elderly women passed away, any sense of stability flew out of the window. Gloria was living on welfare and couldn't afford a place for her and her son, so they moved from apartment to apartment of whichever friend or family member would have them. James grew up in a chaotic and dangerous part of Akron, Ohio. Drugs and violence were prevalent in the area. As an 8-year-old, he missed 100 out of 162 days of school. Playing sports was as much about finding a safe outlet as it was about James already being as tall as his mother. The young athlete began playing football for a local team. Then at 9 years old, he picked up a basketball at the behest of his football coach, Frank Walker. The leader had noticed LeBron's talent during a pickup game in his backyard. LeBron is one of the few players who went to the NBA straight from high school. Kobe Bryant. As everyone knows, Kobe was from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. What some may not know is that Bryant's father, Joe Bryant, was actually a professional basketball player who spent 8 seasons in the NBA and 8 more playing in Italy, where Bryant went to school. When his family returned to the United States, Bryant played basketball at Lower Merion High School in Ardmore, Pennsylvania, when he received several National Player of the Year awards and broke the Southeastern Pennsylvania scoring record set by Wilt Chamberlain with 2,883 points. Bryant opted to forgo college and declared himself eligible for the NBA draft when he graduated from high school. The Charlotte Hornets chose him with the 13th pick of the 1996 draft. He was traded to the Lakers shortly thereafter and became the second youngest NBA player in history in the 1996-1997 season open. He quickly proved his merit with the Lakers and was selected for the NBA All-Star game in just his second season, becoming the youngest All-Star. Allen Iverson. Iverson's life was never easy. He was born to a single mother, a 15-year-old one at that. Growing up in Hampton, Virginia, a city where whites and blacks preferred to roll with their own kind, Iverson grew up not having it easy. His family was poor and most of his friends had been arrested multiple times. Iverson didn't have much, but he did have one thing: sports. Iverson was a star of both the football and basketball teams at his high school. He was a star quarterback and point guard who led both teams to a state championship. Friends credit his football experience for his toughness on the court. Iverson was listed as 6 foot, 165 pounds during his NBA career, but he was actually more like 5 feet, 10 inches, 150 pounds. In high school, he was an option quarterback whose favorite thing to do was run it right into bigger linebackers. Appropriately, one of the favorite things to do on the court is to drive it right into power forwards and centers. Iverson himself says that Georgetown's legendary coach John Thompson saved his life, helping him get his life on track and perfect his basketball skills. As we now know, the answer would go on to change the culture of the NBA and become one of the greatest legends the NBA has ever seen: Michael Jordan. Jordan grew up with a stable family life. His mother, Dolores, was a bank teller who has since written several books. His father, James, was a maintenance worker turned manager at General Electric. Jordan had 4 siblings: Larry, Dolores, Rosalind, and James Jr. Jordan's father, James, introduced him to baseball and built a basketball court in their backyard. James was murdered in the summer of 1993 when 2 teenagers shot him in his car in an apparent robbery as he was driving from Charlotte to Wilmington, North Carolina. He went missing for 11 days until his body was found in the swamp in McCall, South Carolina. The teens were later tried and convicted of the crime and received life sentences for first-degree murder. Jordan enrolled at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in 1981 and soon became an important member of the school's basketball team. UNC won the NCAA Division I championship in 1982, with Jordan scoring the final basket needed to defeat Georgetown University. He was also singled out as the NCAA College Player of the Year in 1983 and in 1984. Along with being considered the greatest in the NBA, Jordan is also viewed as one of the greatest college basketball players ever. As the story goes, Jordan would then go ahead and be selected 3rd overall by the Chicago Bulls and change the NBA forever. Well, there you have it. There's where some of the greatest NBA stars got into the NBA. What did you think? Were there players and stories that we missed? Or were there any facts we missed about the players that were mentioned? Comment below and let us know. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe.